Icarus is another run-of-the-mill survival game developed and published by RocketWerkz, a New Zealand-based studio founded by Dean Hall. You might remember him as the creator of DayZ. Yes, you heard it right, DayZ. This retard dropped development on a game which did start out as a mod but now racks up about 50,000 players on Steam monthly to this day. I'm honestly dumbfounded why someone would throw it all away to start another company that is pretty much worse in every way. If we have a look at their track record, they have 2 games that are playable at the moment, both of them being indie trash. I won't lie, I did in fact do rage bait videos on a few indie games in the past on my channel, for a laugh. So in this video, I'm not going to give you, the viewer, a false sense of this video being a positive review, only to slowly gaslight and explain how I actually feel about the game. I don't want people to get the idea this is a rage bait video, so I'm just going to give you my honest opinion on the game and be done with it. Because it must be said, this game goes above and beyond with how boring, buggy, and downright garbage it is. Not doing it, no smoke or mirrors, I'm going to give you my honest opinion straight up, and if you don't like it, there's a dislike button for a reason. So, with 1 hour clocked on Icarus, it's clear to me that engaging any further would be a waste of time, because it is quite literally the same old cookie cutter survival crap, as I mentioned earlier. You spawn in, you have a hotbar, crafting menu and tech tree, you craft shit, kill animals and walk around a soulless biome with little to no interesting landmarks, wondering what the fuck to do. Right off the bat, I knew this would be a disappointment when I saw how massive the unexplorable mountains were. I chose the open world mode when I first started up Icarus, and one would think that choosing this option would give an open world for you to play in. However, when you see the size of the mountains, which for the record are unexplorable because they're so steep and massive, you realise it is a world, but just not a very open one. Yeah, they may say it's open, but there really isn't much world. It might be open, there isn't much world, because these fucking massive mountains, you could hardly call this a world where you've just got massive stones and this is the play area right here. These natural megastructures were such an eyesore and cop-out as opposed to actually developing a realistic and immersive biome that I considered uninstalling the game right then and there. And the areas which you can explore just felt samey and boring and weren't diverse at all. Make the mountains smaller or more explorable at the base to at least give the illusion of an immersive and open world. But you couldn't even do that. It's just lazy and shit game development. There's not much more to it. And I don't blame RocketWerkz at all for producing this digital diarrhea. The lead developer on Icarus, Dodunski, used to work at Grinding Gear Games as an interface programmer before he started working at RocketWerkz in 2019. It just baffles me why someone would leave such a cushy job at Grinding Gear Games, given their success on Path of Exile 1, for a bottom-of-the-barrel indie company. Let alone Dean Hall leaving development on his powerhouse of a mod and video game, DayZ, to start developing indie trash. It just doesn't make any sense. Unless Hall and Dodunski both got sacked after their bosses started to realise how incompetent they really are, which is true if we look at Icarus. It's self-evident that they're both trash game developers. Dean Hall's track record is bumpy and iffy also. How many years did we have to wait until DayZ was actually optimised, when this whole time DayZ has resembled graphics akin to that of Play-Doh? The game looks like shit and runs like shit. It's no wonder he gave up on it. He's a quitter and a loser. He couldn't optimize it, so he just gave up. Dodunski failed miserably at developing tons of guns, which no one has heard anything about since 9 years ago, when pre-alpha footage was first released on his channel. He's been failing to deliver since he started developing in school, most likely got fired at Grinding Gear Games, and is now producing rehashed survival manure for the low IQ consumer of 2025. I'm getting off track, but these two people could be the very reason why Icarus is such a disappointment. Honestly, any survival game has potential to a point nowadays, but it's getting increasingly harder to innovate with these survival titles because every man and his dog are pumping them out. Just remember, Icarus has been in development for 5 years, and this is the best they could do. Some genres just have their limitations, and survival base building titles are just dead-end games. Rust already exists, and you can see Icarus takes a lot from Rust with its UI, animations, models, gameplay and more. But they aren't identical, they've taken mechanics from Rust and made it shit. Not to mention, Rust is superior in pretty much every way, with a bigger player base and it only costs $10 more. Honestly, one would think that a more intelligent consumer would just bite the bullet, spend a little more and get Rust. Now, most of the negative reviews on Steam are mainly because the game is super buggy, But I never played the game long enough to experience any bugs because I couldn't bear the torture any longer. Speaking of which, some reviews pointed out how the mod or dev team on the official Discord don't take kindly to criticism when game-breaking bugs were reported. Let's read this review here. Game is decent, plenty of bugs that need to be fixed, but the official Discord is the most toxic quagmire I've ever had the displeasure of stepping into. I posted a game-breaking bug and was asked if I had an extra chromosome by a member. The moderators did absolutely nothing and even joined in on the personal attacks. That's pretty funny. And the harassment continued into DMs. Pretty awful community management if you ask me. Edit. After posting this, I was mocked by moderator Ramses and banned from the Discord. Absolutely do not buy this game. The entire team behind it is completely toxic and does not care about its community whatsoever. Even though I find this funny, it is pretty unprofessional. So yeah. Also, upon browsing all 45,000 reviews, it'd appear that negative reviews are becoming increasingly dominant as of late. I think people are finally catching on to how arse this game is, despite Shroud shilling the fuck out of it, stating it'll be one of the greatest survival games ever. And without even knowing, I actually named my character Shroud, as one of the presets in the character creation resembled him quite closely. Alright, we're gonna go with Shroud's character. Yeah, let's go with Shroud. Whether they included him in the game because of this little comment, I don't know. But that pencil neck geek's opinion doesn't really matter anyway, so who cares? I don't think I really have a positive thing to say about this game. I reckon most of the gaming community are so deprived of good titles that they'll somehow trick themselves into tolerating garbage and praising it as a masterpiece because they have to cope somehow with the standards of games today. Video games are in a downward spiral of just being rehashed, much like unnecessary remakes or sequels of great Hollywood films. Minecraft, Fortresscraft, Pokemon, Palworld, DayZ, Scum, Gears of War, Space Marine. The same can be said for Rust and Icarus. Anyway, to sum it all up, Icarus has shit combat, average graphics, soulless biomes, stupid AI, a tedious leveling system, clunky tech tree, and terrible base building. Not that I ever got to that part because I wanted my money back before that point, but I can imagine that it's also garbage based on what I've experienced. I think Jake Dodunski should get better at developing video games, and Dean Hall should consider more carefully who he puts in charge of his projects at his failing indie game company. Anyway, just some wise words of wisdom. I do hope to see Icarus succeed with the help of my fair criticism. See ya!